Welcome back everyone to our Let's Play series of Motorsport Manager. Now, let me begin the video by saying a couple of things. Number one, I know there are still two more videos remaining from the Tier 2 series, two more races remaining in the season. So some spoilers here. Although I'm sure if you're following along with that series, you know from the videos that have been released so far that we are well ahead in the series. So yes, we do move on to Tier 1. And the second thing that I want to mention before we get started is that you would have already gotten a spoiler alert from the most recent video that I did, not directly race related, where I gave my thoughts after the first 100 plus hours in the game. So I'm not going to recycle a lot of the information that I did in that video. Just to give you, if you haven't watched that video, please go and do so before you watch this one, because it gives you some idea. Just to summarize very quickly without going into a lot of detail, essentially I'd gotten to the point where the game has become somewhat of a grind in a lot of aspects of it. I still find it incredibly fun. I love playing it and all of that. That part has not changed, but some of the things have become a grind. So I decided to change things up. Instead of really focusing on championship, I thought, you know what? I haven't had a chance to build. I haven't had a chance to play around with some different drivers, different crew chiefs or race mechanics that they're called here, different things like that. Let's just try some things out and just have some fun with this game rather than just worrying about lap times and winning and strategies and all that. So that's what the remaining videos are going to be like. And those videos will be coming out after the final Tier 2 race, which should be, that video should be coming out here in just a few days. It'll be coming out later this week. So not too much to worry about there. And in fact, what we're going to be talking about in today's video is a practice session. Now, I had gotten a message on one of the previous videos about how do I handle practice sessions? Could I show a practice session? And I'm more than happy to do that. The reason I had stopped doing it primarily after, if you've been following the series, you know that I filmed everything and everything made it into the final cut for quite a while. And then at some point I started cutting out any practice and qualifying sessions because it gets kind of repetitive with me doing the same thing over and over. But the way I do practice sessions now, in my mind, is very different than the way I used to do them because I've learned a lot more about it. And what I'm going to show you today is kind of how I do it and just how I have some fun with it, because practice sessions can really become a grind. Now, I'm going to be showing you, we're in the Tier 1 series. There is no qualifying. We start reverse grid just like you do in Tier 3, where the championship leaders start in the back. So there won't be a qualifying session, but the practice session is it's I think 20 minutes. So we've got plenty of time in practice session, and I want to give you an idea of how I conduct a practice session. Again, we're going to have some fun with this in not only this video, but the remaining videos that I do on Tier 1 as we continue our quest for ultimately a Tier 1 championship. But I want to let you know what I do with practice. Now, it all starts, for me, I believe that most of the work is done before you ever get to the track. Okay, obviously, what parts you have on the car, what drivers you have, all that stuff is already predetermined for you. So I believe to a large extent, the speed I'm going to have at this track has already been predetermined. So when I go up to a practice session, I'm not concerned with, okay, where am I at on the board? I have to get to first place on the board. I have to have the fastest time. I don't care about any of that stuff. Okay, I do look at the practice times because I want to know how I stack up against the other drivers and other teams, but it's not because I have to be number 1 or number 2 where I feel like it's a failure. All that stuff is basically predetermined. I mean, I've got the engine I'm going to have. I've got the gearbox I'm going to have, the drivers I'm going to have. So all that stuff is more or less predetermined. What I'm trying to do is make the best of what I've got. Okay, so we start out here by looking at the tire selection screen. Now, the track and everything that we're at, you're going to be seeing the actual race footage from this event in a future video. But for now, we're going to talk about the practice session. So in Tier 1, you pick out your own tires. Okay, they give you a choice of 3 compounds. And you can see right now, I've just got it 5 across everything. But I'm free to go as low as 1, and then I can use these compounds however I want. Because I'm running short races in this career, it really doesn't matter all that much. Okay, but here's how I go about choosing it. 5 across the board would be perfectly fine for any race that I'm doing because of the short nature. But I start by coming over and I look at a few things. All right, tire wear is low. Okay, that means that I'm probably going to be toward the left side of this grid. I'm going to be want to be using the soft if possible, maybe the medium. Hard would be my last option, except that I come down and I see that this race is 16 laps. Well, immediately I know that if I want to, I can make that on one stop. In fact, with the hard time, I might actually be able to do it on no stops if I could get enough fuel in there, that is. But so I know that I've immediately got an option of running one stop strategy if I want to, and then probably a two stop strategy. And if I just really wanted to have a blast and not care about finishing position at all, just go all out and do three stops. This isn't really the track for that, but just for fun, it's fun to try a three stop strategy where you basically just attack the entire time just to see how much fun that can be. But for this, I know I'm either a one or a two stop strategy because of the number of laps and the tires that I've got. Okay, now I come over here and I look at my drivers. Okay, who do I have for my drivers? Well, I know that Laura here is very smooth. Now we notice her smoothness is at 14. That could not be more important in my eyes. I mean, obviously we all know that braking, overtaking, cornering, those things obviously dictate the speed with which this driver can do the various things on the track. But smoothness will dictate how much tire wear, how hard they are on the tires. The closer you can get that to 20, the better off you will be. Now, in this case, she's at 14, which means she's pretty good. Obviously not at the top of her game, but 14 is pretty good. So I know that a one-stop strategy is probably in the cards for her. But one of the things I decided to do for this season is have a little fun by picking up this driver. All right, which I'll call Chiaki. And again, I have no idea about the pronunciations of all this, so we're just going to go with the best I got. So Chiaki has a smoothness of 9. Now you say, okay, what do you mean the reason why you chose her was to have some fun? Well, the smoothness is way lower than I would want it to be for a tier 1 driver. For a tier 1 driver, I would expect it to be the minimum of about 14 or 15 and hopefully up closer to 20. But I decided to go with her because there was actually another driver that I could have chosen with a much higher smoothness rating. But I decided to go here because what that basically does is it all but forces me to use additional stops for her because she's going to wear the tires out quicker. Now, it's not a given. You can try to run a one-stop strategy with her, but you're really going to have to manage the tires. So it gives me a chance to have some fun, and I basically just go all out with her as much as I can. So you can see her other stats, 19 and 18 on braking and corner. I mean, great there. Overtaking is not tremendous, but pretty good. Consistency is off the charts. That's awesome. Fitness is awesome. Now, fitness is great because late in the race, if you have a low fitness setting, so both of mine have 20 and also 20 on consistency. So there should be good all the way through the race. But if you have a low fitness level, then your drivers could sort of start to tail off toward the end of the race and not be able to run quite as fast laps. So those are some things I look for when I'm looking for drivers. I found that like focus gives you the ability they sort of stay out of trouble. They don't have as many wrecks. So we got 16 and 18 there. So pretty good numbers there as well. So overall, very good drivers that I've been able to get for the series now. But smoothness at 9 is a problem. And that tells me that more than likely I'm going to be doing a two-stop strategy, and I'm going to see if I can run 3 stints on soft tires. So just for me, I know I'm probably not going to be using hard tires. And if I do, it won't be for long. So I'm just going to go ahead and just for fun, I'm going to give myself an extra soft tire here, although we're in basically no danger of running out. Now, with that in mind, what else do we need to know before we can determine how we want to attack it? Well, you have to determine your mindset for practice. I've already mentioned my mindset is not on putting up the fastest lap, getting to the top of the board. I don't care about that. Okay, it's all a relative thing. So I want to know what kind of speed I've got for the tire I'm on and the strategy that I'm on. So I'm going to run my practice session based on how I'm going to run the race. So let's go ahead, and with that in mind, let's go ahead and head to the track and get this thing started. All right, so we're about ready to begin the practice session. So we're here we're going to select our two drivers. Now this is my driver that I'm working on for the future, trying to see how much improvement I can get for her. So we're definitely not going to choose her. We got 16 and 15 on feedback, so not bad at all. All right, now it comes time for the setups. Now the way I do my setups is I'm trying to keep this game fun. This is a spreadsheet game for sure. And I've got a spreadsheet. And so I'm going to come into, I'm going to find Monza, or let's see if I can remember, Milan is what we call it in the game here. So I'm going to go ahead and set the car up based off of a setup that I have saved for this particular track. Now, what I've done is every time you go to a track, the setup that a driver wants is always going to be a little bit different. Sometimes you might get lucky and it might be exactly the same, but for the most part, it changes a little bit. I don't write any of those setups down simply because if I did, I feel like I would be too close to perfect whenever I set up initially for the track, and that takes some of the fun for me. So I write down one setup and I just go with it every time. It gives me a chance to have some fun adjusting the car during the practice session. So we come to our choice. Now I know that if you remember from the previous screen, we have a 16 lap race here. I really wish that was somewhere on here, and it may be in one of these screens somewhere that I haven't seen. But so we got 16 laps. So I know that here, all right, she can go. I count on being able to run one less lap than they have on the estimation. So I'm going to count on 12 laps. Now, not saying 13 to 15 isn't possible, because it is, but I'm going to count on 12. Well, 12 for 16, I don't really need to do that. Now, it would give you the ability to run extremely hard on the hard tire because it is so durable. But we're going to see if we can't have some fun and run soft tires. So what will this give us? Well, this will give us the ability to run 8 laps, which is exactly half the race and exactly what we need. So for me, the discussion is pretty much over. I'm going to run soft tires with her. But if we look at the medium tires, you can see we can get 11. I'm going to count on 10 laps out of that. So in this case, this is the tire I want. So we'll go ahead and confirm that, and then we'll head over to the other driver. Now this gives me the ability to try some things out. In this case, what I have decided to do, because these two drivers seem to like very close to the same setup, I'm going to start them out with both the same setup. Now that's not how I would do it if I had a shorter practice session. If I didn't have enough time for, easily 4 different runs in this practice session, if I didn't have time for that, then I would start them off with a little bit different. So instead of using this setup, which would be identical, if I've done it correctly anyway, should be identical to the other driver, what I would do is I would take a guess as to which direction, if I was going to have to adjust, that I'm going to need to adjust. So let's say that I think my gear ratio might need a little bit to be a little bit more toward the long side. So we might need more top end. Then I would probably go give it at least 1, if not 2, in that direction, just as a test initially to do that. But in this case, we've got plenty of time in the session, and I want to get a chance with both of these drivers on the same setup. So we're going to start there. Now remember, this particular driver is terrible at smoothness. All right, so they're going to be extremely difficult on the tires. So let's see how many laps they can get out of soft tires. All right, so we're right on the edge here. We are 8 out of 10, which means I should be able to get 8 laps. But what it tells me is I'm not going to be able to push these tires. If I push them very much at all, I'm probably not going to get 8 laps out of them. So that means that I may need to go with the medium tire, which means that my lap times should be slower. But because I can get 10 to 12 laps here, I should be able to push them harder and hopefully make up some of that lap time difference. But again, it's all the game you play and how aggressive do you want to be with this. And of course, if you wanted to, you could try to go hard tire and then soft tire. So a bunch of different strategies that you could use. I'm not pretending that I'm going to tell you the exact one that is perfect and you're going to use it and it's going to be great for everybody. No, there's a ton of ways to play this game, and I highly encourage everybody to play it in a bunch of different ways and see which ones you like. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and use the soft tire as well. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm thinking ahead for a couple of things. So let's talk about real quickly what the goals are for the session. All right. I've already talked about, I don't care about the leaderboard. You know, we should be up at the top, if not at the very top of the leaderboard. We don't have the best car, I'll tell you that. We don't have the best car or the best drivers in the series. Steinman has us covered easily on both. But we do have the ability to get to the top of the leaderboard in practice, if things go our way, if we have a good setup, good tire choice, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to worry about the speed so much as I am the relationship of speed between the soft tire and the harder medium tire, and maybe even the hard tire itself. Okay, I'm also going to be looking at fuel burn. Okay, because now when I first got to Tier 1, because I've now played a few seasons in Tier 1 playing around with some things and trying to get some HQ buildings built, that when I first got to Tier 1 rather, there was no refueling. Okay, which was fine, but it came up for a vote and it didn't really matter to me either way. So now we have refueling in Tier 1. So now we've already decided both of them going to be on soft. That's going to help us get to the bonus for soft tires very quickly because of the feedback figures of both drivers. All right, so we're going to go ahead and hit continue here, and I'll see you at the practice session. Okay, here we are at the track. Let's go ahead, and I always, for whatever reason, move the camera. I like the top-down view. I don't like it from the side because around the track there's a lot of buildings and stuff that block your view. And besides, I just don't feel like I can really see what's going on as good as I can from top down. And I always try to center things to where the pit road is at the top of the screen rather than rotating it around the other way. But again, that's just a personal preference, and sometimes I wonder why I even do that. It's more a matter of habit than anything now. All right, so now we've got our basic strategy. I'm looking at one stop for both drivers. However, I know that I've got an option because I know Laura here can make it pretty easily on one stop because of how easy she is on the tires. But I may need to go two stops with my other driver because she isn't quite easy enough on the tires, but that's what we're going to find out, hopefully some more information about in the practice session. All right, so we've already got our setup stints. Well, the first stint, I'm going to go with just a very short stint, the shortest I can. Of course, there is no qualifying trim, as I mentioned before, because there's no qualifying right now in Tier 1, which I find very odd, but it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and do the shortest stint, and we've already chosen to do our soft tire. Okay, so we'll get that set up. We got everything on pause right now. All right, and so same thing here. Soft tires there. All right, now, from the moment that this practice session gets going, I want to approach this as if these are race laps, which means that under strategy here, I am going to choose the options that I will be choosing in the race, which is I generally run the high engine mode. Overtake, there's nothing wrong with doing that as long as you don't run out of reliability. So there's definitely nothing wrong with using overtake. I'm going to use the high mode to save just a little bit of weight on the car. So I'm going to set up both to be like that. Now, I know that I can push the tires a little bit hard with Laura, but I don't think I can push them the entire time, nor do I want to. So we're going to go ahead and start like this. Okay, and we're going to see a couple of things. I'm going to look for tire wear. Not so much on Laura. I'm going to be more focused on tire wear here for my other driver. But then the second thing is I'm going to be looking for the fuel. Okay, we're going to start out with 5 laps of fuel, but then after I give them a full warm-up lap here, we're going to go ahead and see how they do. Okay, looks like Laura is going to be out in front. I am going to focus on her because she is out in front, and we're going to see about that fuel. Okay, so keep in mind, we are not pushing the tire right now because I want to see tire wear numbers. So I'm going to stop it when they get back around to the start-finish line. Okay, so we just passed the start-finish line. All right, so we're at 10% wear and 9% wear just for the warm-up lap, but it already gives me an idea. All right, so we're at 3.91, identical because we're using the same strategy on both. So let's see what we get the next time around. So we'll go 3.91. And again, I'm not worried so much about the lap times, and it may actually be that we have a pass here between the two drivers. Okay, we're getting some feedback on the setup, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so now we're in basically the same spot on the track. And so we go from 391 to 2.87. So we're at basically 1.05 laps of fuel, because the game, I keep wanting to say gallons, but the game doesn't measure it like that. So we're basically at 1.05 laps of fuel per lap. So 1.05 per lap. That is good, because that's what I'm going to need in order to determine how much fuel to put in the car to start the race based off of whatever strategy we decide to use. Also, I can see here that I've used another 10% and 9% off of the tire wear numbers. So let's let them keep going. This first stint isn't going to tell us a huge amount about the tire wear over a long run, but this is to give us a chance to, we've already figured out 1.05 is our fuel number per lap. And I'm going to let them finish up this stint. Remember, it was 3 laps. Okay, right now we're first and second on the grid. I'll take a quick look at the standings. You can see them down here, but let's go ahead and bring them all up. Now, we're at the very beginning of the practice session, and you can see here the grip is going to go way up. So those times will most likely not be in the top 2 here very long. But for right now, we're at 104s. I see that driver in the 3rd position, which is from Steinman, is also in the 104s, basically the same as us. We're a couple of tenths off there. So, okay, we're starting off pretty good. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring them both in at this point, because I've gotten an idea of what I'm looking for. And that is, I can figure at this point as they come in. Okay, so I've obviously got some setup information. We'll make some adjustments there for that. But now I know that I can count on maybe 10% tire wear per lap. Well, I know that these tires are going to fall off pretty hard once they get to about between 20 and 25%. They're going to really fall off hard. So can I get 8 laps in? Well, to get 8 laps in, I'm going to be pushing it. That's really going to be pushing it hard. So where am I at on the bonus? Well, I've not quite made it to level 2 yet. We got a little bit more to go. So what I'm going to do for my second stint is I'm going to stay on these same tires because, again, I'm not worried about the speed. I'm worried about getting some great feedback. All right, on our balance here, we're at 92%. And it looks like the one I really need to work on is the handling. Okay, but while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get to purple here by going up. I usually go up a half of a degree. Okay, if you get to great, what I have found is that if you go up a half, or maybe it's down a half, I'm not sure yet, that's what we're going to test, then that should get you into the purple. That seems to be about the difference. Now, the other thing is, it doesn't seem to make any difference whatsoever whether you adjust the front or the rear wing, which is very unfortunate, because adjusting the front wing would give you more oversteer. Adjusting, assuming we're increasing, of course, increasing the rear wing would give you more understeer. So it would give you another way to adjust the handling, but we don't have that in this game. It just treats both of these as a total, and it doesn't care. So adjust whichever one of these you want. I'm going to go up a half degree and see if that's it. If it's not, obviously next time we'll go down the half degree. All right, so let's see what we want to do here. I'm guessing that we're going to want to go toward understeer, because this is a very top-end heavy track. So let's go ahead and make the suspension 2 clicks stiffer. Again, I find that going from good to great, or maybe even excellent, is usually about 2 clicks. Here is what you're looking at. All right, so we're great here. All right, we're going to leave that as is. So we've got a couple of different things there. I'm going to keep it at a 3-lap stint and use the same tires. Even if we run these tires completely out, it really doesn't matter to me. Now, we're ready to go for our second car. This is where I get into some experimentation. Now, 95% here, so we're already starting out in good shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing here. Now, one of the options I've got is I could go the opposite direction here and find out which way I need to go. The reason I'm not doing that is I'm kind of hoping that I get it right on both cars. Either way, we're going to be fine. But I'm kind of hoping I get it right so that my third stint for both cars can be a longer run. And then I'm going to also go ahead and do the same thing. Here you can see we're at excellent on the speed balance, and we really haven't changed it very little, if any, in real terms. So we're going to keep the stints and the tire choice the same. And we're going to send them back out. So we've got a few changes to make. I put them right back on the same strategy so that whatever lap times we're able to put down are realistic for what we would do in the race. Because in my opinion, putting down a fast lap just for the sake of putting down a fast lap is a lot of fun. And we might do that if we have some time left at the end and we don't have anything else to do. But in reality terms, it's just not worth it for me because I don't get to learn anything that I need to learn. Okay, again, you can see the tire wear difference between the two drivers is really starting to take effect. Now we're at about 5 percentage points difference. And that might not seem like a lot, but if you're getting down to you need one more lap on your tires to do a one-stop strategy, that 5% can be huge. Because again, we want to keep these tires above 25% wear because that's where they're going to really start to fall off a cliff. Somewhere between 20 and 25%. I forget exactly where it is. But if we're there, now I've been ignoring the feedback I've gotten. I've not even been paying attention. I've simply been looking at the fuel and the tire wear. Okay, let's go ahead and bring them in. That should be enough to get what we need. You can see we still got 10 minutes left in the practice session. Okay, now I can see that we went down on downforce, even though we actually increased the downforce. Okay, so that tells me the handling, we went the right direction on it. All right, so now this tells me what I need to do for what I'm going to call the final run. Final run for the purposes of this. So we went up a little bit there, but we lost on the downforce. So if I come back, if you've forgotten, we had 15.5. We went up to 16. That's not what we needed. So we're going to go down to 15. Now that's going to change these a little bit. And this is what I generally use the tire camber to make up for. You can also use the tire pressure for this. Unfortunately, I don't know that these have any effects on the car other than how they affect these sliders. And what I mean by that is, in real life, if you came in here and put more camber in, then that should speed you up through the corner, but it should hurt you on the straightaway. It should also hurt tire wear once you get past the optimum camber angle because you're riding more on, just as it shows here, the inside part of the tire, which should increase the wear on the tire and hurt the shoulder of the tire, causing possible tire failure. Same thing with air pressure. I mean, there are things in real life that air pressure would do to a tire, but I don't think that has any effect. I could be totally wrong about that because I admittedly have not spent any time just merely trying to dissect that. But everything in this game seems to be fairly simplistic and based off of these sliders and percentages and everything. So I don't think it's all that detailed, but again, I could be wrong. So I think we've got what we want here. This should get us in good shape for our downforce and get us even higher than 94%. And now I'm going to keep the stint and the tire choice the same. You can see we're almost out of tire, but I only need maybe one lap here to find out if this works. And then we'll use, we've already got our bonus for the soft tire. So I'm going to go ahead, in actuality, I could go ahead and change this. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that since we're quite this low. All right, so what's the other possible tire that I might use for this track? Well, again, hard on the tires with this particular driver, so I might use this one. Let's go ahead and choose this tire. I was going to use it in our fourth stint, but it's got plenty of wear available. We'll go ahead and do it for this stint. Okay, now we'll come in, do the same thing here. We know our tweaks to handling and speed balance worked out well for us. Still a little bit of tweaking there to do, but because the downforce actually went down in satisfaction, then that ruined it. So we're going to go ahead and make that adjustment real quick. Again, a little bit of a change there. You can see here, there, and it's right back to the same. So this is generally what I use the camber for, or again, or the tire pressure. So now I have these two back where I want them, and we should be in good shape for maybe a 97 or so. For that, we're going to do a quick 3-lap stint here, and I'm going to put on the same one. And again, the reason I'm going to put them both on the same tire, even though I have no desire really to use the medium tire for this driver in the race, is for bonus purposes. Having both on the same tire will make the bonus increase quicker, and we should have plenty of time to get a level 3 bonus here as well. So let's go ahead and send out. Okay, we'll unpause the game here. All right, so again, same thing. I'm not going to push except with Laura. Okay, now what I could do here is I could say, hey, I'm going to push with both of these, but I'm still not quite sure about this one. So I'm going to see what her speed is without pushing. And then let's see what she can do, what Laura can do if she starts to push. Now, these lap times that we're going to get, if we look here, 104.3 fastest lap, 104.4. So we're looking at 104s and mid 104s for a great lap time. The difference is going to be the grip on the track is increasing quite a bit. But that's also going to happen during the race, assuming we don't have any weather issues. So now we're just going to give it a couple of laps here. Remember, this is a 3-lap stint. So we're just going to give them a couple of laps here, and let's see what we get. We already know what type of fuel mileage we're getting. Okay, so wow, very nice. You can see nearly identical lap time here because we're pushing a little bit slower there. Now we speed up. Now we're below 105. For a lap, 104.5 there. So we are in very good shape on the medium tires. Given the same approximate fuel load. Now we're going to run out of fuel here. Okay, so now both are ready to come in. They finished their stint. But if I look at what we got, not bad. At most, you're about a second per lap slower, at most. And in basic terms, they're not far off in terms of speed. Remember, you have to take into account the increase in grip. So here, with our second driver, pretty much the same thing. We're about a second off the pace at most. But for her, because we're able to push these tires, we can make up a good portion of that difference. And while I'm thinking about it, let's go ahead and put this on low for the simple reason being, if I can let them get as far around this track before they run out of fuel, that'll just get them back quicker. So we can make another. So we're on our way to a level 3 bonus there. And I think we're going to have enough time left to get that, because essentially what I'm going to do next here is put them on another stunt. All right, so now we're at excellent and 2 greats, excellent across the board. Let's go ahead and start our final stint. Now we're at 99%. I'm going to stay on the same tires, and we'll have time, just enough time. Let's just go ahead and set it up for 6 laps to make sure. We should have no trouble getting that final bonus, but just in case, we'll go ahead and throw a little bit of extra fuel, because at this point, I've learned what I wanted to learn. Now, the other thing that using medium tires instead of soft tires will do is it will give me a little bit more tire wear before the tire hits the wall and really falls off a cliff. All right, I'm not going to mess with the fuel this time, because this is all about getting the bonus at this point for the medium tire. I've already found out what I want to about the speed. As I mentioned, we don't have the fastest car. Now we're close. Everybody's fairly close on this particular track because of the style track it is. If you've got a strong engine and some good acceleration, then you'll be fine here. All right, also, we'll get a chance to see what the lap times are if I don't use the level 3 engine mode. So if I don't use the high engine mode, you can see how things slow down. So we go from 105s to 107.5s. Okay, so we got our full bonus there. So it just gives you an idea. You can really make up some speed by using the different engine modes. And of course, overtake mode is a great idea as well. All right, so with that out of the way, this gives me a chance to get a glimpse of, okay, where did we come in? Now, remember, we ran all of our laps on our soft tires before there was tons of grip in the track. So I feel like we came out okay. Of course, Steinman is at the top as expected, but we're pretty close to them. They are still ahead of us, but by no means are they dwarfing us and leaving us in the dust. So that's how I run a practice session. I have a few goals. Number one is obviously the setup percentage. I want to see if we can get that as close to 99 as we can. But once we get north of 95 or 96, then I'm usually pretty good. I don't worry too much about it after that. Then the second thing I want to do is I want to get my amount of fuel burn that we have for this particular track at whatever engine mode I plan on running. And then also the knowledge bonuses. Now, there's another piece to the puzzle as far as knowledge bonuses. So we'll go ahead and get through here. Oh, it looks like this race is going to be a torrential downpour, at least at the beginning here. So, all right, let's take a look at the final bit that you need to set up. Now, I already knew ahead of time that Laura, I wasn't going to be using these slots for any performance bonuses of that sort, because what I do with her is I use the 2 mechanic bonuses. Okay, I have a mechanic bonus for refueling is 50% faster and fast pit stops, which would generally carry a much higher chance of a mistake, which unfortunately for me, I don't know if it's a tier 1 thing or if it's just some bad luck I'm having, but I seem to be getting tons of mistakes on pit stops, even though both of my race mechanics have 20s on pit speed and at least 17, if not higher, on concentration. So I seem to be getting tons of mistakes on those. So choosing this basically brings down the fast pit stop to be the same as a normal pit stop as far as mistake chance. So those two usually save me anywhere from 4 to 6 seconds in the pits. So you can see that is a huge difference. It's hard for me to match that on the track, particularly if you are in traffic, which I plan to be in traffic most of this race, if not the entire race. So now I can't tell you for sure that it's better, that these 2 bonuses are better than 15% for tire and 15% for race trim. But in my experience, these are 2 great bonuses to pair with one another. So if you have those available to you, I definitely recommend using those. Now, if we come over here, now we're looking at 2 dry weather tire bonuses, which are going to be hurt by the fact that it's raining. And it looks like, looks like that is going to continue for some time. In fact, it's going to get interesting here because it's going to get wet enough for wet tires, but it's also going to be pretty good for intermediates too. So this is going to make for some interesting strategy in our first video. But so what am I going to do? Well, I take a look at this and I can see far enough out to see that it really isn't going to do me any good whatsoever to have a tire bonus for anything other than wets or intermediates, depending on which way you want to go. So do we have any other options? Well, not there, but I do have 2 options here. Now I've got a super overtake mode, which I have never used. I have not used that, and it gives you even more fuel burn and even more condition loss. We also have tire changes of 50% faster. Unfortunately, this really doesn't do us much good most of the time, simply because the limiting factor in the speed of the pit stops is generally the amount of fuel that I'm putting in, unless I'm going for some super aggressive 3 or 4 stop strategy or something crazy like that. Then the tire changes are not the limiting factor. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this at soft tire. Again, the super overtake mode is not bad, but You know, I don't have any testing as to how much fuel that would use, and my guess is it would be at least 1.5 per lap, if not higher. But who knows? For our video, we may take a chance. We may use this one. We'll see. But for now, I'll just leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I'm not saying that what I've told you in this video is the perfect way to do it and everybody should do this. It's great. It's just the way I do it and the way I have fun with it. So hopefully you've learned something. And join me next time for more Motorsport Manager.